On today's show, Matisse Thybulle gets matched. The Mavericks deals are official now. So what do the Mavericks do now? We'll look at the roster and see what the Mavericks need to do coming up on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks podcast.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Thanks for being part of the show and making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. Join the Raccoon Squad, be an everydayer, subscribe or follow for free. Just search Locked On Mavericks wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day, like so many of you have over the last week or so, and comment anything below. Let us know in the comment section. What do the Mavericks do next? What do they do next? If you want to support the show, text us. Get text alerts from us. Ask Isaac a million questions in the AMA today that he was completely overwhelmed by, which made me feel really awesome. Subscribe to our subtext. Click the link in the description below. You get texts from us. I've been sending out text alerts from every rumor that I see, every report that comes on. I've had a lot of people respond and say, I'm so thankful for this. I've spent so much less time on that broke site, twitter.com, that I don't have to be on there to find Mavs rumors anymore.
It's not broke anymore.
Still kind of broke. But joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, contributor at Mavs.com. The Friday Fiend, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
I want to give a shout out to Grant Williams. Grant's first day as a Maverick, and he got yammed on.
Yo.
My guy. If there's... if you are not on the quote-unquote broke site, Grant Williams had a playful jab at Donovan Mitchell on Twitter earlier yesterday or today, and Mitchell had a padded, sometimes you can put a pad on when you're benching.
Donovan Mitchell was bench pressing, and there was a little like pad there to help him if he dropped it or whatever, and
just kind of protects the
like
chest
training wheels for bench pressing, I guess.
So Grant takes the little jab at it and like making fun of it on Twitter. And Mitchell just responds back with a screenshot of when the game was tied earlier in the year, and it was Mitchell and a couple of them who were walking up to Grant Williams when Grant Williams did the "I'm gonna make both of them." I'm like, both of them.
109 with like 4 seconds left. It's Boston versus Cleveland, and he's like, "I'm gonna make both." And if you don't know the story, he did not make both. He did something with both. He did not make them.
So anyway, it was funny. Mikal Bridges. I mean, Grant seems like a hilarious dude. As Nick, said yesterday, he's so goofy.
Yeah.
So he was retweeting some people laughing about it, but it's just an example already for Mavs fans that this is the goofiness of Grant. It's funny.
He's gonna try stuff. That's the same for him on the court and off the court. He's gonna try stuff, and sometimes it's gonna go really bad for him, and sometimes it'll go great for him. So on today's show, we'll get into what the Mavs do next now that a couple of these moves have been announced and the Thybulle thing is now dead. We'll talk about that. And then, we'll look at the Mavs roster and figure out what do they need? What's next for them? What can they actually do? So let's start here. It was reported earlier today by Adrian Wojnarowski and others that Portland Trailblazers matched Matisse Thybulle's deal. This deal, Bobby Marks laid it out. The Mavericks did their damnedest to try and get the Blazers to not match this. I mean, all the things that they put in, all the little machinations of the cap to try and put, here's all that Dallas put in this. This is according to Bobby Marks. A 15% trade bonus, a player option in the third year, $2.6 million payable within 14 days of the contract approval, and $2.6 million payable on October 1st. So they basically gave them all the little bells and whistles of a contract to make it all as player friendly as possible to try and get the Blazers to think about it, rethink about it, think about it again, and then go, all right, do we want to deal with that kind of contract? And at the end of the day, they just decided they did.
Yeah, within 24 hours. They didn't even wait the whole time. So it was nice of them. Thank you, Joe Cronin, to just, GM of Portland, to just go ahead and just match this thing and to where Dallas doesn't have to wait and all of that. And I get it. I've said it, before on yesterday's podcast.
What you wanted.
It's not what I wanted. I expected him to match because, he's still, mid-20s. They have these young guards that are, basically all offense for the most part. And you want guys like that playing defense around those guys. So I get why they matched. It was worth a swing from Dallas. I've seen some people are like, dude, why do we even, try for this and all this? Because what was your other option? Like, it's not like you lost out on somebody over the past 24 hours because you did this. At this point in free agency, it was kind of worth it. Or it was worth it. It wasn't kind of. It was worth it. You took the swing. You didn't get it. And now they can reevaluate their options.
Yeah, we'll go through the list a little bit later of all the free agents that are still available and say, all right, did the Mavericks miss on this? Did they miss on this? No, they haven't really. So they tried it. He was the best defensive player that was available in all of free agency, I think. And they went after him, gave him the best that they could at that point, and it just didn't work. And so there it was. And so now the Mavericks have to move on and try some different things. We think that they've made some good moves so far, but they still haven't pushed themselves forward that much. And so we'll talk about some things that they can maybe do a little bit later to do that. The other thing that was announced today is Derek Lively's second, the trade down deal where the Mavericks were in the 10th pick. They traded down with OKC to get the 12th pick. They got a traded to player exception because they sent Davis Bertans to OKC. That deal became official, so Derek Lively can now practice on Friday, and he can also play in Summer League, which is really great because he's just been sitting on it's been so sad. Every time I go to Summer League practice this week, he's just been sitting on the sidelines while they do 5-on-5. He's talking to Omax, talking to Tyson Chandler. He's got a towel draped over his shoulder for no reason because he's not playing. He just looks very sad to not be playing. And then the Omax deal with Richaun Holmes, and the Mavericks just sent cash considerations. We kept talking about the Mavericks had to send something because in the trade, you have to send something to the other team, but it was official. It came down, and so that deal has a couple more implications to it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what was there, 2-3 hours in between those deals becoming official? And I don't know how many subtext questions we got in tweets of, does this mean something's happening with the Sacramento deal and Omax and all of that? And I mean, who knows? They
what it probably meant? It probably meant that one of the PR people had to just sit down and write both of them, and they just posted them as soon as they finished writing the thing.
Well, so anyway, yes, the biggest thing with that is, with Richaun Holmes coming in now into that, exception that with Bertans going out, Holmes coming in, it pretty much kills anything. It does kill anything right now that any of the fake trades that you're trying to do with Holmes, Tim Hardaway, and somebody else for a DeAndre Ayton. The DeAndre Ayton deal seems, it's not happening right now. It's currently.
Yeah, I looked at that. I was like, is that dead? Well, they could still do Tim and Maxey and they could try to put JaVale in there, and maybe they send back Ish Wainwright to try and match the salaries, and then you can make that work. Is that interesting to you?
No.
But so it's not dead, but it is with Richaun Holmes. That original deal that we know for sure that the two teams had talked about, that deal is dead.
Yeah. So doesn't mean that Holmes can't be traded. Richaun Holmes can still be traded tomorrow. It just has to be by himself, just his salary going out. So theoretically, I said this today on Subtext. Yes, theoretically, you could do a Richaun Holmes for Zubats and do the 2 seconds you got in the Grant Williams trade. And it's Holmes in 2 seconds for Zubats. Yes, you could do something like that, or another salary out there. Let's say Dallas, combines Tim and JaVale and something else to go get a starting big, and then you turn around and you take Holmes's contract and try to trade that with a couple of seconds to get another wing in there. So there's still some flexibility. It's just it takes Holmes off the table when combining other Mavs players, at least for a couple months.
Yeah, you just can't use that $12 million salary now combined with anything else. So you can't build up to, like you said, an Ayton or somebody like that. Yeah. And so the Mavericks can go out there and look at some of the guys.
But Omax is officially a Maverick, baby.
Oh, let's go. We need an Omax drop. We don't have one.
Excited. I got to get this jersey, right?
Oh, you've got to get the customized one that just says Omax on the back of it. Because if it just says Prosper,
it's just going to say Prosper.
Doesn't hit as much, right?
I still got to get it.
Every time I suggest you do a custom one, you're never into it.
Is it a hot take to say custom jerseys are really lame?
They probably are, but one that says Omax on the back of it with his number.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
I think with a player's nickname on the back of it, I think it's okay, right?
Didn't they try to do that for an All-Star game? It was kind of tacky.
It worked for some of them. Coming up, let's get into what the Mavericks can do next. What should they do next? We'll go through a list of the free agents and talk about who's still available. Could the Mavericks now take this MLE? Because they now have the MLE back open again since the Thybulle trade didn't go through. What should they do next? We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do that, let me tell you about BetterHelp. BetterHelp can help you out when it comes to talking through life decisions. If you've got a big life decision ahead of you, or if you've got something behind you that you just dealt with that you need to talk out and process, if you need to, someone to work something through, it's like a muscle in your brain trying to work through decision making, trying to work through how to work on self-talk with yourself. I struggle with that, and talking about, oh, you suck, you look terrible, you're blah, blah, all that self-talk. You need someone to help you out with that, and BetterHelp can do that. If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. Again, that's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of this show, being part of the Raccoon Squad and Everydayer. If you listen every day, you're part of the Everydayers. If you missed our Grant Williams episode yesterday, we did a Grant Williams emergency pod. We also did a Matisse Thybulle, which is kind of now old, but then we talked about Grant Williams at the end.
Yesterday? It was like 3 days ago.
We talked about Grant Williams at the end of that pod, too. So you can go back, and the Grant Williams pod is still relevant because we just talked about him on that one. So go check out that one. Tomorrow, I'll probably be back. I'll definitely be back. I'm not sure Isaac will be with me or not, but I'll be back talking about Summer League. I'll be in Vegas. I'll have probably watched Victor Wembanyama by then, and I'll talk about what we should expect during Summer League and all that. So check back. We'll have pods every single day. All right, Isaac, let's get into the rest of what the Mavericks can do. What is next for the Mavericks? Because they have this MLE now. It's open back up. They tried it on Matisse Thybulle, and like you said, the Blazers were nice enough to not wait the entire period, which I thought that they wouldn't. Usually you find out if the team is going to match, you find out pretty quick if they're going to match it or not. And so we found out Thybulle will not be a Maverick, and now they have the MLE to do something with. So what could they do with it?
And can't be a Maverick. They can't trade him to Dallas this season.
Yeah,
so,
CBA Mavs on Twitter was very clear. The Thybulle deal is dead. He will not be a Maverick. I was like,
it does feel like Dallas has kind of like flirted with him for a couple years now.
I know. Well, hey,
so
next summer.
Yeah, so basically what can they do? They can, now they can pivot. They have the MLE, like you're saying. And if there's another player on the free agent market that you think is still worthy of that price tag of Thybulle, then you can go and do that and pivot to a different player. Or you could break up the MLE and maybe give a guy $5 million and like $6 million or something like that. You could also decide to move Seth and Dwight into the MLE and then open up, Seth is in that biannual exception. You could open that up to next year. So, if you use it now, you won't have that next year, which is, around that $4 or $5 million mark. So that would just give you a little bit more flexibility for next year. If you think, and why would you do that? I've seen some people ask that in subtext. You do that if you look at the free agent market right now and you say, there's just nobody out there that's really worth it. Christian Wood, no, just kidding. If there's nobody out there that's worth giving a contract like you were going to give Thybulle,
more than the minimum.
Yeah, well, even like if there's nobody out there that you're like, hey, I'm going to give $8, $9, $10 million a year to, then it's probably best to just go ahead and move Seth and Dwight into it. You only have one roster spot open anyway, and then just use a minimum contract to fill out that last spot on the roster for camp or whatever it is. Now, PJ Washington is still out there. Okay. I love PJ Washington. I've been very adamant about that.
He'd be great.
Outside of the random dumb account on Twitter that has, got Mavs fans' hopes up, we haven't seen any credible reporting about PJ linked to Dallas.
His personal trainer was looking at real estate in DFW, Isaac.
Okay. It feels like, based off the reporting, that PJ wants more than the MLE. and he's probably in this staring match right now with Charlotte of like, hey, like I want more money than what this MLE number could be, or else I would probably already signed it with somebody. Charlotte obviously doesn't want to pay that, or else they would have already. So somebody's going to blink here. There's also a qualifying offer, or he could, they could approach another team out there like a Dallas, whoever, in a sign and trade.
I think it's been reported by Jake Fisher. He's looking for $18 million a year, and they're looking at less than that. Then they're looking at, all right, who out there? They're basically playing the game that everybody on online wants you to play with free agents. Well, who are you bidding against? The Hornets are doing that with PJ Washington right now. Who are we bidding against right now? And so they're just,
they better be careful. No free agents will come to Charlotte.
And they're playing it hardball with him. They did it with Miles Bridges, and Miles Bridges just ended up signing the qualifying offer. Now he has some other circumstances. He's also a better player than PJ Washington, so they're doing a similar thing with him. And so now you have this issue with him. He'd cost more than what the Mavericks have to offer, just money wise, straight up. So like you said, it would have to be some kind of sign and trade. Send Tim and the seconds or whatever. Maybe that gets it done. Tim is making 17. That's just about what PJ Washington wants in free agency. And so it kind of makes some sense there. I think Tim would be really good for them to have a vet, a shooter, and all that. And then PJ and Grant Williams are a little bit weird to try and play together because they're both fours that play bigger, but I think you can make it work. And the Mavericks definitely need the talent. I'm not saying that they don't need it, but that would just be a little awkward fit. But
I think you could make it work too. I think it would be kind of fun. But I'm a big fan of PJ. I'm not expecting the PJ to Dallas one to happen.
No.
But whenever you ask the question of, is there anybody else out there that's worth like the MLE money? I think PJ is probably the only name left for me. Outside of that, do you have any other names that are non-minimum contract guys that you're like, this would be worth splitting it up for?
I want to play the game. I want to go through the names.
Let's play a game.
Let's play who's left in NBA free agency. So we talked about PJ Washington. Kelly Oubre is a name that several subtexters have sent to me. He doesn't play any defense. He would not help them in any way. I would much rather just try Omax at that spot.
Yeah, we had 7-foot Kelly Oubre last year.
We're gonna talk about the Mavs minutes and the roster and what they need in the next segment. And I would rather, it's already going to be hard for Omax to get minutes. And I would just rather have Omax get the minutes at that point. Terrence Davis, the Mavericks have been connected with him. There's been rumors they've been interested in him. He's 6'4". He can guard a little bit. He can shoot a little bit.
He doesn't give a crap. Like he's gonna like get in people's faces and stuff. But I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of his game because he is a get buckets guy. And I feel like we got plenty of get buckets guys.
Got a couple of those already.
I kind of lean towards like wanting more defense.
Right. And there's not many of those left, which is why Thybulle was a really good attempt for the Mavericks. Will Barton, Garrett Temple. Stop me if you're interested in any of these. Will Barton, Garrett Temple.
Put the washing machine out for those two.
Derek Jones Jr.
Derek Jones Jr. is one of those dudes I watch and I always want more of. Like I want him to be like a lockdown defender.
I know.
And he's just not.
Mavs have been connected to him. They almost made a trade for him and Kelly Olynyk a little while ago. Hamidou Diallo, Justice Winslow, our old friend Wes Matthews, TJ Warren, Javonte Green, Terrence Ross. Those are like all the wings that are available right now.
No. I'll give you one that actually I like that you haven't mentioned is Wenyen Gabriel.
Oh, yeah, I haven't gotten to bigs, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. I think he could qualify as a bigger wing too, but I like it. Anyway, okay, if you want to go bigs.
But yeah, so that's a big. Paul Reed is a name some people have talked about. The Sixers, he's restricted, and he's still kind of hanging out there. But
yeah,
he would just be added to the platoon, and then you get to the same thing that you get to with like a Kelly Oubre. I would much rather just have Derek Lively minutes than Paul Reed minutes.
Well, I think there's also a difference too when we're talking about free agents. I put this on a subtext thing today of what you would use MLE money for versus what would you give a minimum contract for, and none of those dudes I'm giving an MLE money to. There's only one that you haven't named yet that I would get close to the Thybulle number for.
A player or a big?
No, not a big.
So Ayo Dosunmu?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, he's the last player left. Here's the other guards: Goran Dragic, Ish Smith, George Hill, Kendrick Nunn, Austin Rivers, and There's somebody I'm forgetting.
Oh no.
There's a guard. I was trying to.
Is this a joke?
People forget about Frank.
Oh God. Yes. The league has forgotten about Frank.
You fell for that so hard.
I did. I was like, wait, are you really thinking right now? I can't help you.
I did that joke on Twitter today, and some people fell for it. I thought that was really funny. I would assume I was listening to Locked On Bulls today, and they were talking about $7 to $8 million would be just a little bit too much a year for Io, and I was like, oh, the Mavs have $7 to $8 million.
Do it. I tweeted before free agency. I said Io's the next Bruce Brown. I think I like his game. I liked his game coming to the draft. I like what he gave Chicago. It is kind of weird that like a team like Chicago is not, making that happen right now.
I like the same thing as PJ, I guess.
The only struggle with it is I think he's a little redundant with Dante Exum, but everything of what you would be telling yourself with like Exum of, hey, we want to bring like a bigger, lankier defending guard in here to like just see how it works out. Like he's not a see how it works out guy if you're going to give him $7 million. So, but he's young enough and he fits like some of these guys. I would do it. I'm probably in the minority, but I would give him a $7 million 3-year deal.
Yeah, like he's not exactly what they need, but he's not what they need either because he can handle the ball. He can defend. He defends really well. Like he was part of some really good Chicago defensive lineups.
He could play with Jaden or Seth.
Him and Hardy as a young backcourt upcoming, and then Josh, that's and Omax and Lively. Like that's a really good young core that they could start throwing together.
And Chicago's point guard stuff is just weird. They did the Kobe White stuff. They still have Caruso.
Brought in Javon Carter.
Like how many like true points are they gonna have?
Well, they're not. None of them are really true points though, which is the weird thing. So they're all kind of just like hybrid pseudo. So that's the list though. So if you're wondering, well, why did the Mavs do the Thybulle thing? Well, there's nobody else. There's nobody else out there. I would assume it was the last one that I look at and like you said, say, hey, they should try and go for that. But coming up, let's talk about the rest of the roster and talk about what the Mavericks need coming up.
You don't believe you shouldn't be here.
Party, let's go party.
All right, Isaac, let's talk about this Dallas Mavericks roster. When you look at this roster, they've done a pretty good job and they got younger, they got a little bit more athletic, but they still have some needs. When you look at the roster, what's the needs and how can they address those?
Yeah, I think I would still want another wing on this team, another bigger wing, because I mean, look how it is right now. If you want to include, which it's kind of a stretch to include Maxey as like a bigger wing. But if you break down this team, I was kind of separating the roster today. If you put Luka, Kyrie, Hardy, and Seth together, and then like I'm kind of leaving the two-way guys out of this, and then you put Tim, Josh Green, and Dante Exum together, the next level of like bigger bodies is Grant Williams, Maxey, and Omax.
Yep. And
I would just like to add another. And that's where Thybulle would have came in to play with that, because then you have Thybulle, Grant Williams, Omax. Maxey's kind of the, in between of the big, because the big spot right now, I mean, you have four legit centers that don't play anything else. Dwight, Lively, Holmes, JaVale. Which
you can't play any of those guys together.
No. So that's where it's like,
Yeah,
I would take a bigger wing. That's the idea. That's when there were even some of the name, like some of the like minimum names that I didn't even throw out a while ago. That like I'm not all like I'm kind of interested in Anthony Lamb. I'm kind of interested in Trendon Watford. Like I would take Winyan Gabriel. I would throw, like if it's a minimum contract money, I would throw money at like a bigger wing that's in that 6'8", 6'9", 6'10" range before I would like a. I think Austin Rivers would have a good vet impact on this team, but I don't think that's the best like minimum contract worthy position right now.
Yeah. On Twitter today, I did all right, I'm going to take 240 minutes. I'm going to try to find what could the Mavs rotation be and the minutes distribution. Everybody a lot of people got upset with it, but what I basically found out is I had Luka and Kyrie at like 35, 34 minutes. And then to try and even it out across the rest of the players, I had Josh Green and Grant Williams at 26 minutes each. That's not going to happen, right? But to get Omax 10 minutes and to get Hardy and to get
who'd you have at the 5?
I had 15 minutes for Dwight, 14 minutes for Lively, 10 minutes for Holmes, and then I split up Maxey between wing and center minutes. So Maxey's got like a 5-minute run at center every game, which is what he does. And so that you're splitting up the center around those 4 people. I didn't give any to JaVale. No. And my point is to get Omax 10 minutes, which is all I gave him was 10 minutes a night. You have to take down Green's minutes to 26, Grant minutes to 26, Maxey's to 20, Tim's to 20, Curry and Hardy are both playing 15. Like, it's just hard to try and find minutes. And so if that's the case, and a lot of people came back and said, well, there's no way that a team's going to play 12 rotation players. That's true. But then that means, to your point earlier, the Mavericks don't have another big wing to throw out there. They at least have one in Grant Williams, and then they have Maxey. But those are the only 2 like bigger than 6'5" wings that you can throw out there on some bigger guys.
Yeah. So that's why when I look at it, I think how that would, in a perfect world, if you could add to the bigger wing spot, like let's say, I mentioned this in the first segment, but let's say they go out tomorrow and trade Tim and JaVale and a couple of seconds or whatever. Let's say Tim and JaVale for another big out there, and they bring in the solidified starting center. Woj notification goes off. I'm like, I gotta watch this.
Does it say draft picks trade? Remember he tweeted that earlier today.
Woj is saying
Montrezl Harrell,
according to the CEO of this agency, that their agent has told their agent that agency's organization told him that this player is going to sign for a minimum. So yeah,
at the NBA Summer League presented by Ruffles with
yeah. So like if you do that and you get the solidified center, then I think there is a world that you could go and take Richaun Holmes' contract and say, like, for instance, if I'm doing this off the top of my head here, but if let's say the James Harden deal turns into like a 3-team deal, Dallas isn't in it, and Zubats goes to another team, okay, and they're sitting there saying, all right, we have Mason Plumlee. Why couldn't Dallas call up and say, we'll give you Richaun Holmes for Nick Batum, or Richaun Holmes and a 2nd-round pick for, Nick Batum, or maybe Holmes for Covington, straight up.
Yeah.
It's something like that. Like, so that's the type of thing of that you could still go that route of like Tim, JaVale pieces or something like that for a big, and then take the $12 million contract of Holmes and try to find a wing out there that you could do just straight up with. So there's still so many different options on the board for Dallas that, yeah.
The other number one thing the feedback I got from Mavs fans and from people around the league and around the Mavs, and Jeff Skin Wade came back and said Hardy is getting more than 15 minutes. And it's hard to try and find Hardy more than 15 minutes in this lineup if Luka's playing 35, if Kyrie's playing 34, if Tim's playing 20, which is low for Tim, Curry's playing 15, which has been low for Curry, but it's hard to find other minutes, and then Hardy's getting 15. Like, where do you find these other minutes? And so I think that we still think there's going to be a Tim Hardaway trade. That he's been mentioned the most by everybody. We still expect Tim Hardaway to be traded at some point. He's got the most tradable contract of the rest of the players on the Mavericks still. And so that's why he's been in trade rumors the most. And the Mavericks have a replacement. And I think Seth Curry can do everything Tim did last year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Hardy can do everything.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Hardy.
So I think Hardy's the natural replacement of that. Just just right now, guaranteed in the rotation, it's Luka, Kyrie, Josh, and Grant as you're looking at it. And right now, I think you're guaranteed the first 2 names off the bench to me is Jaden Hardy and Maxi Kleba.
If Tim's not on the roster, or if
Tim's not on the roster, yeah. So assuming, let's say Tim turns into a big, and then you have that solidified big right there with Grant, Josh, Kyrie, and Luka. I think you're looking at Jaden Hardy and Maxi Kleba as the first names off the bench. And then after that,
I think
you're
Kidd probably brings Seth off the bench before Hardy. I think that it's going to make everyone sad, but I think that's what he does.
See, I don't know if I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I think Jaden's going to I think he's taking a step. And I think
even if he takes the step, I think Kidd makes.
But here's the thing with Seth though, he's just making $4 million, so it's not like you sign Seth to a Thybulle contract that's like $12 million a year or $11 million a year, to where you're like, all right, there's no way that he's getting under a certain threshold of minutes. Like a $4 million, like I agree, Seth is playing, he's gonna be in the rotation, but like it wouldn't shock me by the end of the year, kind of like how I did last year of the Maxey versus Christian Wood total minutes. Like it wouldn't shock me if Jaden Hardy has more total minutes than Seth Curry next year.
No, wouldn't shock me either, but I just don't expect it from Jason Kidd. He goes with veterans. He goes with guys that he knows that will go in there, play a role, be automatic. Jaden Hardy is a risk, and he did play Jaden Hardy towards the end of the year. He started trusting him a little bit more. Seth Curry's not a risk. You know exactly what he's going to bring out there. You know exactly what he's going to bring. You know how capable he is as a shooter and all that. But, yeah, so that's my take on it. But, yeah, I'm with you that those are the first couple guys off the bench.
JaVale's not playing at all for him. I think Dante Exum and Richaun Holmes are like wild cards, that they're probably both DNP-CDs at this point. And then I think Lively has to get some minutes. I don't think
I'll do I'll probably do a whole podcast on the Lively development puzzle that the Mavericks have this year. Looking at past bigs and looking at who are the bigs that have been good in the NBA right now, and how much did they play when they were rookies, and how many of those rookie centers played on good teams, because it's hard to try and find. So they have this, can't play a rookie center that much, but we need him, but we also need to play the rookie center so he can develop, and there's just so much to go on there that I want to unpack later, but I think he does have to get minutes. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think in the perfect world, you have a solidified starting big, Lively's your number 2 big, and Dwight's your number 3 big.
Yeah.
And to where it's Dwight and Lively off the bench together, and it's kind of situational based. You're giving Lively that throughout the regular season. He's getting more minutes than Dwight, but hey, some nights it might just be a struggle for him, and you just might have to throw Dwight in there to run some pick and rolls with Luka. He's already got the chemistry and stuff and all that. I think that's the perfect world. And then JaVale is cast into the sun, and Richaun Holmes is just a DNP-CD.
Yeah, I think there's more of a path for Richaun Holmes than Dante Exum, like you said.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden Richaun could have a change of scenery, all of a sudden look really good. This is the best point guard play he'll ever play with. You know, he's probably motivated because he hasn't played the last year or so. And so,
yeah, I'm not saying he's like bad or anything. I don't know what to have an opinion about him on.
Me either.
It would just surprise me. He's so similar to Dwight. It would surprise me if Dallas playing him over Dwight. So
he is making like 3 times the amount of money that Dwight.
Very, very true.
But the Mavs didn't pay him that. So, all right, tomorrow we'll do some kind of summer league preview where we'll talk about what to expect. I'm very interested in Jared Dudley's talk about Jaden Hardy and what to expect from Jaden Hardy and all that. The rookies, they just have practiced on Friday for the first time. So that's going to be a little bit interesting to try and figure out. But Jaden Hardy's the one I'm really focused on. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Guys, do the thing.
Hey, I got one more thing.
Next time, don't wait till it's 3 seconds left to talk.
I think if Tim Hardaway's on another team, it's obviously about, number one thing, it's about using his money to get a big.
Yeah.
But I think right behind that, as a close number 2, it's because of the leap that Jaden Hardy's going to take. That I don't think that you're fully writing off Tim Hardaway into, another team if you're not confident that Jaden Hardy's going to be able to step into a big role next year.
I love that. I love that. I'm in it. Come back tomorrow, guys. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.